Hello my gorgeous plant people, welcome back to Reading Mindfully. My name is Yana, and today we are potting up my cuttings from the Transformation series, so let's hop into it. Hey guys, so like I said, today we are potting up my cuttings. These are the cuttings that I took in my Transformation series when I pruned back my plants, and I also staked them up. And like I said, we're gonna go pot them up today. And now, sometimes when I do water propagation, I do leave my cuttings in the water a little bit too long, but like I said in other previous videos, I do like to pot up my cuttings when the roots get about 2 to 3 inches. And so as you can see, this has grown plenty of roots. They have grown roots like crazy. I didn't do anything crazy with these plants. I didn't use any rooting hormone or anything like that. All I did was simply just stick the cuttings in a jar of water, and I put them on my windowsill, and that was it. The only other thing I did was to change out the water about every 3 to 5 days or so, or you could do every week. But just so you know, the plants get fresh oxygen, the water stays clear. I mean, technically you could leave the cuttings in the water, but it would get a little murky, and sometimes it grows algae, and it might just be better to go ahead and just change the water out. And so the first plant that I'm going to repot back in the pot, I'm repotting all my cuttings back into the pot with the mother plant. And the first one I'm doing is my golden dragon. And this is what my golden dragon looks like if I step back. And like I said before, when you do take cuttings from your plant, it will stimulate the plant to grow in other areas. So as you can see, it's growing a little baby plant here at the bottom, which is really cute, as well as it has stimulated growth right here, if you can see that growth point, and I have one growing here. So it does help to, propagate your plant, so that way you can stimulate new growth points and get the plant to be nice and full. And so what I think is, sometimes when I'm really lazy, I just stick the cutting right in the pot, especially if the soil is very loose. Other times I will pot the whole plant and then just maneuver the cuttings in there. But for video purposes, I will go ahead and pot the plant, so that way you guys can see what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to let that fall a little bit loosely, and then I'm going to carefully move out the stake. I don't want to damage any roots. Let me twist this so you guys can see. And then I'm going to carefully dump the plant. And like I said in other videos, this is my soil bin, but like I said in other videos, I just simply run my hands around the sides, so that way I can try to get out the plant without damaging it. And then I'll pull nice and slowly, and there we go. Alright. I'm also going to take this time to look at the roots. Make sure the roots are looking nice and good. I do knock off some of the soil just so I can have a better view of the plant, as well as I can fit the cutting in there better, because what I want to do is I want to put the new cutting up flush with the stake, so that way it can climb up, because sometimes if you don't take some of the soil off, the cutting won't be flush against the stake, and so the plant won't be able to attach to it without you just really pushing it back. And so this is what the roots look like. You can see it's a nice healthy root system. I have nice chunky white roots, which is what you want to see on the plant. So I am watering it well, and it is a healthy plant. And so what I'm going to do is just simply put some soil in the bottom of the pot. I burned incense and I put the sticks in this plant, so that's why I have a couple sticks in this one. Alright. And I have a ton of soil that I can put in there because I do like to give myself about 1 inch clearance at the top, so that way I don't spill soil all over the place when I go to water the plants. Alright, so now we have the plant sitting in the pot, and then I have a hole here where the stake was. So I'm simply going to put the stake back in the hole. Now that I've made room for the cuttings, and then as you see, this cutting has grown tons of roots, and so I'm going to go ahead and line it up flush with the stake here, making sure that the roots will be covered by the soil. And I'm also going to see if I like the way that it's going to look in the pot. And so you see I had 2 cuttings that didn't develop roots, and so these I'm just going to go ahead and put back in the water. You can see that they didn't grow roots yet. I'm just going to put them back in the water and put them on my windowsill, so that way they can go ahead and grow roots. And then I'm just going to backfill this with soil. And so this one I could have waited to repot, but I did want to just show you guys how I do this process, so that way you guys could get a good look, because I did get a couple questions about the cuttings, as far as the process, what do I do with them, if I was going to show you guys once I had repotted them. So I did want to just show you. I'm trying to make sure that the roots are going to be under the soil. And then I could just use the Velcro to hold it up against the stake like I had it before. And then fill this side in. Like I said, sometimes I just don't even take the soil out of the pot. Sometimes I'll just dig a hole in the pot and kind of like poke the I just poke the plant cutting in there. But you just have to be careful if you do it that way, so that way you don't damage any roots. Alright, so and this is what the plant is going to look like. And so I will need another piece of Velcro just to go ahead and get this to line up. But as you can see, that's what the plant is going to look like. I do press down a little bit just so it can really hold the plant up and hold the stake up. But once I Velcro this piece, it's gonna be nice and full. So you can see that when you do take cuttings and put them back into the pot, it does make the plant look much fuller. And this is what the golden dragon looks like. Alright, and so the next plant that I'm going to do is my Variegated Cross. And this one is a little bit taller. As you can see, it's very lanky up here at the top, and then it's much fuller at the bottom. And so actually what I want to do with this plant and what I was waiting to do, I'm going to take a couple more cuttings of this plant just so that once I fill in the plant, it's kind of all level and I don't have one tall piece and then everything, you know, filled in at the bottom. So I do want to go ahead and do that, as well as when I was watching Plant Life in the Tropics video, and she had a cute little bush of this plant, and so I was like, man, I would love for mine to look like that. And so that's when I had the idea of chopping it a little bit more. And so this is actually growing a new growth point in there, and so that's very cool. I'm just going to put that in water so that way it can propagate as well. And then I'm actually going to cut this because you can see that it can grow roots here. So if I put this in water, it will stimulate growth at this juncture. And then I'm going to see what it looks like with my cuttings to see if this is a good point to stop at. And as you can see, this plant propagates a lot easier, at least for me, and it grew tons of roots, as you can see there. And so what I would do is I'll kind of just see where I would like to put it in the plant. Kind of just do like a mock of where I want to put the cuttings. And I do have 3 of these. So I just go and place them where I think I would like them, just so I can get an idea. Yeah, and so this looks pretty good. Now that I have the cuttings in here, I think I will take one more cutting of this plant, just so it can be even. So I am going to take a cutting. Let's see. Let's take off these husks. I'm actually going to take a cutting right here. And you can see this leaf isn't doing too well, but that's what that looks like. And I'm just going to stick these in water like I did the other ones. And so now I have like 3 more cuttings of this plant. As you can see, this one grew a little wonky. So I don't know, it's going to be kind of difficult to straighten that one, but we'll see. This one might be one where I won't be able to dump this one. I won't be able to just stick the cuttings in here, so I'm going to have to dump this one out. Let's take out the stake first. And actually this plant kind of feels like it might need to be repotted soon. Ooh, and it slid right out. Alright. And you can see this is one of the cuttings I had stuck in the first time. Alright, so I'm going to stick some soil in here at the bottom, just so I can get to a nice level. I'm going to put this one on this side, taking note of where the stake will go. I'm going to put a little soil in there just to get that stable in there. And then I'll put another one here. I'm basically just trying to fill in what I think look like gaps so that the plant will come off more bushy. And I'm just putting in enough soil so that it holds up the plant. Alright. And what I'm going to do is just put the stake back in there so I can get a good opportunity to backfill this and get the plant in areas that I want it to stay. Sometimes it can be difficult to do this, especially when your cuttings are separate pieces. There we go. And it even helps that once you put it in there to pull the plant back, so that way you can Velcro it to the stake to keep it in place. Just Velcro all the stems to the stake. And I should have brought more Velcro over, because that might not be long enough. Alright, so I have more Velcro, and I'm just going to go back in here. This one cutting just keeps falling out of the pot, and it's like, argh. There we go. Oh, I got the leaves stuck. Right. And you have to be very gentle with these plants, especially this Variegated Cross, because the leaves are a little bit fragile. I'm going to take another piece of Velcro. That one's not long enough. This is why I don't propagate that often, because it is work, especially when your plants aren't in a 4 or 6 inch pot. It can be a little bit trickier to pot cuttings back up. You see I missed one here, but it can be a little bit trickier to pot plants that are quite bigger. So this one I didn't really get flush on this side, but it should be okay. And I'm also leaving a couple gaps. I'm leaving a gap here and a gap here, because those are the spots where I'm going to put the cuttings that I just took in today's video, so that way I can see that I have more space. to put additional leaves. As you can see, this is a new leaf that developed. This one actually came out when it was propagating, which is kind of cool. All right. So the stake is a little crooked, but that's okay. Partially because I had a hole in there. All right. And so this is what the Varicosum melanochrysum looks like with additional cuttings in there. I like this so much better than how it was before. Before it was so lanky and just, it didn't look very great to me, in my opinion. I mean, other people probably would like it, but like I keep saying, I do like a more full plant. I'd rather the plant look full than lanky. And so I'm very happy that I did this. But that is what that looks like, and it looks so much better. As you can see, it is putting out new growth here. You can see that. This leaf probably will be a lot smaller because it didn't get enough light, and it started coming out after I was cutting the plant back. So sometimes when you cut your plants back, the new leaves that come in do come in a little bit smaller. So not all the time, but sometimes that does happen. But that's that plant. And then you can see here are the new cuttings that I took today. So the plant will be even more full the next time you guys see it. And here is my Atapapawensi cuttings. Some of these didn't finish developing. As you can see, this one just started to develop roots. This one has a semi-good long root, which I do want 2 to 3 inches. This might just make the cutoff. And then let's see. This one did really great. You can see that. I'll hold it up against my shirt. That one did really great. And then this one just started as well. So we'll just do 2 of these today. All right, so honestly, I could have waited a little bit longer to do these pottings, but I did want to get some of these cuttings off of my windowsill just because I don't like my windowsill having so many cuttings. I think that I just don't like the look of that, as well as I wanted to propagate some other plants, so I'm trying to, you know, move some things along and make sure that we have a system going. And like I said, I just really want to propagate some other plants because I'm not liking the way they look right now. And so yeah, this one. Try to wiggle this out. And this one I could actually just stick it in there, to be honest. I probably could have just left that stake in there. Yeah, because the soil is so loose that I could just stick this one in there. So I hope you guys can see, I just stuck my finger in this soil and basically just stuck that in there. Actually, let's put the stake back in there so I can get it up against the stake. The stake was here. I stuck the cutting here, so that's as close as I'm gonna get. And then the other one, which has a growth tip, and I'm just going to make a hole next to that one, push it in there very slowly and carefully, and try to get the root on the soil level. And I basically could just do it like that. That one was very easy, and like I said, it's because my soil was loose, super loose. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of soil on top because I did have a little bit of root sticking up, and I want to make sure that it's covered. All right, that one was really easy. I'm gonna go ahead and put the tape back on here. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my neighbors stomping around outside upstairs and being noisy. Like, all my neighbors are having parties today and they've been shouting and arguing all day, which I'm just like, I'm all for parties and stuff, but I'm trying to have a peaceful holiday, you know what I'm saying? But that's what the Atabapoense looks like. And those are the 2 new cuttings. So the plant does look a lot fuller and it's not as lanky as it was before. I also could take another cutting off of this, so that way it is flush, or that way it is level with the other plants. I actually could take 2 more cuttings off of this plant, so that way it is level. I could take a cutting here because the roots are growing here. I actually have a new growth point coming out here, and so I think I will take that cutting and just stick it in the water. And then let's see. I might just leave this one because the other growth tip on the other end or the other side is gonna grow, and so I might as well just leave it. It's gonna grow out pretty quickly. And so that's what my Atabapoense looks like. And so honestly, I could cut this so that it's closer, so that way I don't have so much stick at the top. That looks a little bit better. Also, if you guys are worried about fungus where you cut, you can just put a little bit of cinnamon at the top, and that way it'll stop that if you are worried about that. But that's what my Atabapoense looks like. Alright, so this is the last plant that I'm doing today. This is my Philodendron squamiferum, and this one actually really needs a deeper pot. I don't really have a deeper pot for it right now. I do need to go pot shopping because I do like to do repottings when I bring the plants inside, so that way I don't have to worry about that during the winter or the fall. It's one less thing that I have to do. And so I probably will do a shopping trip before I bring the plants, or after I bring the plants in, just so I can get a count of, you guys will be able to see how I bring the plants in and my counts and everything, so that way I can get all my plants situated for the winter, the fall and the winter. Alright, so this one I'm actually going to dump out. To be careful with this one. This one is actually close to being pot bound. It's not there yet, but it will be if it puts on any more growth. And so I'm going to keep that in mind when I go plant shopping, to go ahead and get this a bigger pot. This is 8-inch, so this plant will need a 10-inch pot. And like I said, I do take note of that when I go shopping. Because it does not make sense to go ahead and buy all these plants if I cannot afford to up pot them. If I do get overwhelmed with repotting plants, I don't buy any more plants because I can't afford to, up pot them and things like that. So that's another thing that I have to consider when I buy plants, is can I maintain the plants that I already have. Alright, and so let's look at these. These grew a lot of roots. As you can see, that's one cutting of the squamiferum. And I think when I did my transformation video, someone said that I wouldn't be able to grow these plants in water. But as you can see, I was I've had a lot of success with these plants propagating in water. And like I said in my couple of my videos, my preferred method is water propagating. I don't do sphagnum moss propagating or perlite propagating, but yeah, these were able to grow roots just fine in water, and it didn't take that long either. Alright, so I think that's how I want them to look. So I'm going to go ahead and put the stake back in. I think I'm scaring Sage because he hopped right in the crate. He's probably like, you're mean. You're not nice. Alright. There. Now I can do these bigger pieces. That piece. And I'm just going to pull that in there. And there we go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put some soil in the bottom so that way this thing can be more stable, because as you can see it's very wobbly, and cover all the roots. Didn't quite spread that out right at the bottom, but oh, there we go. And I will go ahead and include pictures in here because I know this can be kind of hard to see. But I will include pictures so that way you guys can see the finished product. As you can see, I didn't really space this one out well like I did the other cuttings, but I'm hoping that when it grows out, it'll kind of spread out more evenly. You can kind of try to maneuver it without, hopefully without hurting the plant too much. So I'm just gonna try to maneuver it to see if I can get some of these leaves moved over. There we go. Try to pull this one up a little bit. Try to put some more in there. Like I said, this one will be getting a bigger pot. I just wanted to do this for now so I can get some of these cuttings off my windowsill. But this is what the Squamiferum looks like. That looks a lot fuller. And once I get a bigger pot, it'll be more stable, but that's what it looks like. And I like that a lot better than what it was looking like before. I can even put another layer of Velcro here, so that way I can make sure that the plant will climb up the pole and hopefully give me bigger leaves as it climbs up the pole. But this is one of the reasons why I really like plant Velcro, because it makes this, at least this part of the process, a lot easier. And I like the fact that it's reusable. But yeah. But yeah, so those are all the plants that I needed to go ahead and pot back. I also do have my the Cursiva cutting here, and that one's grown roots too, so I could actually do this one as well. But I'm going to do this one in another video because I do have a whole bunch of other plants that need to be repotted. I just wanted to show you guys how it looks and how I do repotting my cuttings when I do prune my plants back. So that way you guys can see that process. But like I said, I'm going to include pictures so that way you guys can see the plants. And I just want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos, liking and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.